Hello everyone, my name is Maddie Norris, and my presentation is on the environmental and coastal resilience in the state of Washington. Just a little background on the state. The state is in the most northwest corner of the mainland United States, the most northwest state aside from Alaska. It covers 71,300 square miles of the United States, and 4,721 of those square miles is covered in water, which is about 15% of the state. The biggest body of water that is a part of the state of Washington is the Pacific Ocean, which is their western border. Along with that is the Columbia, Snake, and Yakima rivers, and the Lake FDR and Lake Washington, the Puget Sound and Hood Canal are some of the most prevalent and the largest bodies of water that the state of Washington has. Along with that, the state of Washington is one of the most prevalent states in human coastal interactions that are observed. The first human coastal interaction is shoreline modification. In 1971, the Shoreline Modification Act and Shoreline Master Programs were put into place. The Shoreline Master Programs were created and supported to be in support of the Shoreline Modification Act. So they kind of go hand in hand, and those just explain what can or cannot be done to the shorelines. There are a few preferred shoreline uses across the state that are stated in these acts and programs, and that includes controlling pollution, preventing damage, and preserving unique aspects of the Washington coast. And along with that, the public state doctrine was put into place, which just essentially lists out limitations and restrictions of what can and cannot be done in the bodies of water, or changed or used. The next one is invasive species, and these invasive species do affect the fish and wildlife resources used all throughout the state, and the Washington Fish and Wildlife Office provides resources to combat the invasive species that do come about, and specifically one of those invasive species is the zebra mussel. And to combat the zebra mussels, the 100th Meridian Initiative coordination was put into place. And what this does is just monitor the growth of the zebra mussels, and monitors where they're going and what they're doing, and also provides an outreach effort to prevent the westward spread of these zebra mussels throughout the state. And the state of Washington also does have the Aquatic Nuisance Species Management Plan in place, just as another effort to combat invasive species and observe them, and just keep track of what they're doing and create new ways to attack them. The third one is estuary management. In estuary management, there are a ton of social and economic aspects that are put into place and come about. And the biggest ones are changing demographics and economics of the coastal communities where these estuary management teams are put into place. There are many different public attitudes and perceptions of the estuaries, and there are many different estuary values to the state of Washington. The Willapa Bay and Grays Harbor are two examples just in the state of Washington how coastal communities are growing slower than the state because they do have poor management and there are some issues with how they are being managed. And these issues lead to increasing threats coming with the growth of the estuary environments, and then also the residential land values fluctuating against the hazardous waste sites that are coming about due to poor management. The last human coastal interaction is recreation and water quality. And the recreation and water quality in Washington has a bunch of contributing factors to the well-being of the residents and visitors to the state. There are many opportunities in recreation and water quality to positively affect the people that visit and that live there, and their well-being. A lot of the variation in the recreational visitation to different coastal communities in Washington indicates the human behavior. and recreational visitation is used in ecosystem service assessments, which then are used to help prioritize the improvement of water quality. And the increase in water quality would also increase the value of recreation, and that was studied in the Puget Sound, where the state of Washington observed how the water quality was fluctuating and also how the value of the recreation throughout in the Puget Sound was also fluctuating. And they saw that when there was an increase in the water quality, there was also an increase of the value of the recreation, just in the economic value itself, but also just the attitude of the visitors, and just their perception of the water quality itself. So there are many different reasons to prioritize the recreation water quality, and the state of Washington found this out, just in the value of recreation and how that leads into many of the other different aspects of their tourism and government and a number of different things to help the state of Washington. That is all I have for my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.